Hey, welcome to my channel. This is Swiss Climbing. Today I'm going to teach you how to juggle. This is what I did for 2 weeks just to learn. I recommend a set specifically because I've tried doing it with fruit and they're just different sizes, different weights, and it's nice to get them as close as possible to the same, so your feeling is the same when you toss them. And again, if you have two different sizes fruit, you might not open your hand enough to support if you're going from like a large to a small or a slightly different size. So it's good to have them all roughly the same. And even these are pretty affordable. I think I got these for $4 or $5. So it took me 2 weeks. I would say that I'm fairly coordinated, so it might take others a little bit longer, but I think if you work at it and not too much, 20 minutes every day, you should be able to get it down pretty quickly. And I would say skills are progression based. So when you learn to walk or learn to run, first as a baby, you lay, then you crawl, then you stand, then you walk. And the progression is like that. Well, same with juggling. So I'm going to take you through the progressions. First, we're going to start with 1 ball, then we'll move to 2, and then we'll move to 3. I'll give you some recommendations on what I found helpful for myself, and we'll go through them. But the first thing, the very first thing, obviously, like I said, get some balls that are the same size. Again, you can use lemons, things like that, but try to keep them really the same. Because you don't want to go from a small one to a slightly larger one. You may not open your hands the same. So for this, we'll start with 1. And the very first progression is to just toss it with 1 hand and catch it. I generally recommend to just keep your eye straight and look at the ball. So I'm looking up right now, not at my hand. And you want to get the coordination of when it comes down to gauge where it's at with your hand. And I also recommend tossing it above your eye when you're learning to juggle. So you'll see a lot of people juggling and they'll toss it really low. Oh, and I couldn't even do that. And again, tossing it really low, you have to move faster. So if you're doing it really low like this, it's really fast. But when you're starting, it's easier to toss it higher and get your hands used to it. So even when you're doing your single ball, start with tossing it higher and then just gauge where it's going to come down. So you're going to start with a 1, then first, probably primary hand for most people, then second. And you want to get used to tossing it a specific height and catching it. And again, just kind of look up and gauge where it's coming down. And you might need to move a little bit if you're not coordinated. Tossing it outwards, might do that. That's okay. Just get used to it. Once you get each hand and you just continually practice like this, then you can toss it back and forth. And this is the motion that you're going to get used to, essentially, is you're going to toss it roughly eye level back and forth and get used to catching it with each hand. Then you're going to introduce a second ball. And the motion is as one kind of goes up and starts to come down, you're going to toss the other one up to get that one floating and catch the other one at the same time. So it's going to go down, this one's going to come out, this one's going to catch, and it's going to be like this, right? So 2 balls. And I recommend, right now you see I'm primarily tossing with my left and then catching with my right. So you're going to do that, and then you're going to switch. So you see how my right is now tossing, and my left is tossing it up. It's important to practice both because both hands need to do this essentially when there's 3 balls. And I haven't even progressed to 4 or even like the sideways throws where they kind of come from the outside. I still do the under. And again, I haven't really practiced those, but so it's important. Now the second one is with 2 balls, toss 1 up and 1 down. So it's like that. And then you see I was tossing with my right, so now then toss with your left and do the same thing. And that's the next progression. You need to get comfortable with this because essentially this is the whole motion you're repeating over and over. It's that third ball that's always in the air. Well, technically, most of them are in the air, but it's that third ball that makes it a lot harder. You can't catch them. The last progression is with the 3 balls. And as I mentioned, it's really good to toss it at least eye level. And I realize the camera is tilted, but if I bend down, you can see my. So I recommend eye. You can start with 2 in the right if you're primary and toss it up like this. Or you can start with 2 here. And it's whatever comfort is for you guys. But notice how one's always coming down and one's always coming up. So when you catch a ball, you're just waiting for the other ones to come down. I haven't tried a 4-ball juggling. I don't know if the pattern is any different, but I would imagine, logically thinking, I would throw them a little bit higher. It gives me a little bit more time to just toss them and keep them in the air a little bit more for each ball to come down. So I'm going to start with the 2 on the right and the 1 on the left, and eye level. I'm going to be watching the balls up here, not at my hands, all the time. I'm just going to be coordinating. And then you get a few rounds in, maybe you want to swap to this side. And then what you want to do, it took me a while. So after 2 weeks, I would say I could juggle for 3 to 5 seconds. Over the course of a few years, or a year or whatever it happened to be, all I really did is I picked these up and I did about 2 minutes every day. I just left them on my desk so that I could always see them. I picked them up and I just did this, even if it was 5-10 seconds. And then at some point when I get comfortable, the other thing that I found is really helpful for me is when I start, if my hands are like right here and just comfortable, I'm a little bit more relaxed when I toss. And you see the hands kind of moving in this motion. And that's what I found worked really well for me. So last progression I would say aim for 10 seconds or more and try and keep that. And even talking while juggling is a little bit difficult. And the other thing that I found, I am standing up. Sometimes I find that I toss things a little bit out and I'm walking. That's okay for me. I mean, I'm not a professional juggler. It took me 2 weeks to learn the skill and I like it. It increases the coordination of the left hand. So if I want to get better at this point, I just need to do it more and I'd have to aim for 30 seconds, 1 minute, and I'd progress. The other thing I found is that sometimes I'm really on and I can sit there and I do it. And sometimes, I don't know if my brain is just thinking of other things, but sometimes again, I start tossing it and I fumble. And I'm not too worried about it. The main thing is that it is a skill, so you need to practice. And you can always go back to the basics, like tossing it up and getting the coordination of seeing where it's at and where it's going to come down and you're going to catch it. So I hope everybody can give this a go. And again, don't expect 2 weeks, even though I'm going to put 2 weeks. Everybody's got different coordination, but I think it's really key to just start with the 1 and eventually, again, toss it up high enough at the eye, and then you'll take your time and you'll get there. The higher it goes, the more time you have to think about where it's coming down and catching. The lower it goes, it's definitely much faster and a little bit more crowded. And I dropped it. A little bit more crowded, so you need to be a little bit more aware of where it's going, but definitely a little bit cooler when you're going really, really fast. So enjoy. I hope everybody can pick up a little bit of juggling skills. Have a good day.